My name is Kira Hayes, and today I'll be talking about some of the ways that slavery was enforced in the United States. Slavery came to the United States in the early 1600s, where men and women from Africa were brutally captured and thrown on ships that were then taken to America, and they were bought and traded to southern plantation owners and other slave masters. When the Constitution came about, a rule was implemented by the Founding Fathers that all slavery trading to the United States from Africa had to be ended by 1808, and this did come about. However, there were enough slaves already in America that slavery continued all the way until the Civil War. Some of the ways that slavery was enforced up until the Civil War had to do with the manufacturing industry. Manufacturing was very popular in the northern United States, but it was not yet popularized in the southern United States. And because of this, plantation owners and thus slave owners in the southern United States saw slavery as their best means of income, even though it was proven that manufacturing made up 45% of the United States income at that time. Another way that slavery was enforced in the United States was due to the cotton gin. And while a misconception is that the cotton gin actually caused slavery to be reduced, it actually increased the amount of slavery because the cotton gin allowed farmers to plant more cotton and different types of cotton that they were not originally able to do without the cotton gin. Thus, more slaves were bought and used and treated unfairly. Another way that slavery was enforced was due to the capital of the slaves. Slave owners purchased their slaves, and thus they had an investment in the slaves, and they needed to get as much work out of them as possible so that they could make the most profit as possible. More importantly, slavery was enforced by the church. There was a large indoctrination spread throughout the southern United States that slavery was the only way to spread the gospel to the Africans. They said that by making them slaves, they were converting them to Christianity. However, we know this isn't true because there are examples of missionaries who were prior to this time in the 1840s, such as David Livingstone, who went and ministered in Africa. And while that is not while it's not an opportunity for everyone to be a missionary in Africa, we know that even as free people, the gospel could have been shared with the Black Americans. And one of the final way that slavery was enforced in the United States was through misconceptions presented by people for slavery, such as George Fitzhugh. He had a belief system that slavery and socialism were one and the same. They were very similar, and he believed that Black could be slaves because white were slaves as well. However, this is not true because whites were not slaves. He believed that whites were slaves because up in factories in northern states in America, like in Massachusetts, the slaves, or the people working there, were treated unfairly and felt like they were slaves. But this goes against what Abraham Lincoln defined as free labor, in that free labor is choosing who your employers are and being able to negotiate with your employers. The slaves did not have this right and did not have this ability. But George Fitzhugh continued to push his point that slaves had free labor because they were free from decisions and simply had to do what they were told. To quote Abraham Lincoln, "Those who enforce slavery on others those who deny freedom for others deserve it not for themselves."